mental chemical process of visualizing. When we have made a connection with a illumined mental object in the mind, if it has proved a pleasing, or if one sense it strongly enough, so to speak, it becomes held and established in consciousness, and we say that we are thinking about it. The truth of the matter is that we are not only thinking about it, but upon it. It means that we are directing against our thought the vibrations or pulsations of a mind light much finer than our thought object has become. Just as the unformed light of the sun is a much finer light than the formed material object which were once a part of the sunlight, the mental light pours itself upon and about our thought and bathes it, just as the cruder light of the sun continually pours itself against all outward objects, and in the same manner in which the light rays of the sun are deflected from an object and thrown back into space, so our objective thinking, in pouring itself against the formulated mental object in the mind, is deflected and thrown back again in consciousness. If our object of thought is a strong enough existent within us, a mind heat is generated. The mind heat gently and imperceptibly sets into movement finely arranged and adjusted group of mechanical faculties which belong to what we call the intellect, and which we have described as constituting the various parts of the camera of the mind. They become automatically and gently levelled in the direction toward which our attention has been excited, so that we are now focusing our mental camera, so to say, in the direction of the mental object established in our sense consciousness. The light of our thinking takes shape. It becomes a differentiated and specialized form of mental light, and by projection it becomes in itself the mental object, so that thereafter we no more deal with the object existing in our outer or sense consciousness, but with the light which has formed itself as an image of the object and which has established itself in the illumining chamber of our inner consciousness. Within the area of mind affected by the enclapsed thought image, the thinking becomes changed from a purely passive to a magnetically active mode. The mental chemical elements suspended in this state of thinking, we can say, have become magnetized. If we were able to observe these mental chemical elements at the moment of impression, we would see the trillions of tiny mentoids in an inconceivable whirl or state of activity. Heretofore passive, these hardly imaginable units of the subjective phase of mind have become electrified and enlightened by contact with and absorption of the imaged mental light, so that now, in affinity with this light of mind, they become the quickened and basically active magnetic substance of our imaged thought. The thought image takes on a state of extreme aliveness. We can say that what has occurred at this moment of thought impression is this: a certain specialized form of mental light, which we call an imaged thought, reflecting our outer or objective mode of thinking, has passed into and become part of the inner highly impressionable mode of thinking substance, which we term the subjective mode of mind. Also, we can say that by this mental process of impression, our imaged thought is on its way toward the first stage of its outward, tangible materialization or reproduction as a thing, a circumstance, or a condition of outward life. It becomes a more tangible, palpitating, vitalized, and magnetic object in the consciousness than when it was simply a reflected object of mental light, because the thought has now taken for its living body the enfilming and plastic substance of the subjective state of thinking in which it has embedded itself. It must be kept from contact with or exposure to the kind of mental light which is represented in the external vibrations of the outward method of thinking, whether emanating from our own or other minds. The imaged thought, which was at one time a part of objective thinking, now becomes a part of what we know as subjective thinking, and so must not come in contact with the former at this stage of the visualizing process. For this reason, the impressed thought image is carefully protected and sealed with the will, as we shall subsequently see. It is now a mentally photographed thought, a living object of the mind, forming itself out of the filmy and plastic texture of subjective mind substance. Thereafter, it will take tangible shape in sub-sense consciousness, awaiting only time and the proper mental conditions for its fixation, hardening, transference, and outward development into the visible sense world, where we can feel and see and otherwise become cognizant of it. We can say of the thought image what the photographer is able to say of his light image, that it is on its way toward the first stage of its outward, tangible materialization or reproduction as a mental photograph. And when we understand this consciously and fully, then all doubt about the reality of the mental photographic process will cease. It is a marvellous fact, yet perfectly natural in both instances, and that which is true of the photographic film is just as true of the subjective, impressionable element of the mind of which the film is the outward chemicalized correspondent. Our heart's desire forms itself into that which is but a thought at first. The thought becomes projected and impressed upon our subjective thinking, and by the process of development becomes the thing which is visible to our eyes.